Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Goddamn, this sounds amazing.
I know, right?
You thought it was a regular podcast until David Noel in a podcast that'll rock your socks. One-on-one with David Noel.
Wow. Yo.
I think I can do a little
this
half
is
situation. I'm trying to keep the integrity of the hat. You
bro.
know?
Bro.
Okay.
This is an honor. Like, I'm literally crying right now.
I see that. Honestly, this is a long time coming, bro.
I'm crying.
You and
right
you
now,
and I have been, what's the word? Kindred brothers in arms.
Brothers, bro. I tell people this all the time, like whenever they see me and they're like, "Oh, you're so tall. Did you play sports in high school?" And I tell them the story of how I tried out for the basketball team and I tried out for the football team and didn't make it, and I ended up in the drama club. And that was the best decision I've ever made.
Accepted.
The one place I was accepted
for your
the drama club.
Beyond your height, but for your spirit. Because how tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
You're 6'4", but spiritually, you're like 5'10". Because you got the humbleness of a 5'10" dude. You know what I'm saying?
You feel me?
You don't act like you 6'4".
I'm not giving 6'4" energy?
You're not giving 6'4" energy. You're like 5'10", dog. 5'10's humble. You know what I mean?
But let's talk about let's start with the drama club, bro, because that's where we met.
I ain't gonna get an introduction.
Actually, yeah. You're right. See, that's the authenticity of this podcast.
Hey, man,
we rolling with the punches. So, for my audience members who are watching, we are here right now with Joshua Jean-Baptiste. Joshua Jean-Baptiste.
Messy.
Is a Haitian American writer director with a rich background in experimental theater and narrative filmmaking, seeking to leverage deep cultural insights and personal experiences to create impactful stories. Aiming to expand his directorial portfolio by exploring complex themes of identity, culture, and ideological attachments through innovative storytelling. Committed to nurturing cultural understanding and amplifying underrepresented voices in the arts while fostering collaborations across brands and nonprofits.
Damn.
We are here with Josh Jean-Baptiste, y'all boys. Joshua. Bum Dion Blag.
Haitians be stuttering for it.
Haitians be
Older
Haitian.
Haitians be stuttering.
Older Haitians, yes. But okay, let's jump right into it. Drama Club. That's where we met. This was in high school, North Miami Beach.
Senior high. Shout out to the Chargers. Go Chargers.
And like I tell people this all the time, that Drama Club was probably the most formative time of my life. Because like you're in high school, and for me, like even middle school was pretty awkward and high school was pretty awkward, but being in the Drama Club, it felt like all of us were X-Men. Like we were all almost unaccepted.
It's a great way to
in
put it.
Other places within the school, but we came together and we just like we nurtured each other. Like
just
we
a ragtag
encouraged
group of
each other.
hooligans.
Exactly. It was just like nonstop. Whoever you show up as is okay. Like that's what it was with our Drama Club.
We'll find a place for you.
Troop 3206.
One
like,
time.
Whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, you're a techie or you're doing a monologue, like or a musical piece, like you are accepted. And so in your bio, we talked about identity. Let's talk about like, just that time of forming your identity and how that progresses over time.
Well, originally I was, went to North Miami, and I personally feel like I was on a predetermined track of just being like, another dude on the block,
And aesthetically, if you want to take the headphones off, you can. But
I mean, it's kind of cool, just as long as
because you like the voice.
Like, Makisha, how am I looking? Does it work?
I'll tell you what.
No, but it's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
To answer your question, I think identity, Drama Club was the place where I really did, quote, find myself, or because I was a skateboarding, pot smoking, dude before that, you know what I mean? And like, I really felt kind of directionless after a while. Like it was fun. My mom kept me kind of under tight tight circumstances when I was growing up. So when I did get a chance to go out and like skate and be with like a group of friends, like I was like out here in these streets. And then eventually, you know, I was like just kind of hanging around, just blazed again, looking at all my homies at the skate park, and I was like, I need to do something. So I originally was going to join the baseball team.
Okay.
And I was literally on my way to baseball tryouts, and then a dear friend of mine, JR, hops out the drama club and is like, yo, we're doing improv auditions. And I walk in. And it was that one time where like I go on stage and literally escorted me to the stage of the drama club. And we did improv. And it was in that moment where I was like making people laugh and stuff like that. And you know hood niggas, like when you cracking jokes, it's like, yo, you so stupid. Josh, you so dumb. I was always the stupid one in the group.
Right.
But here I wasn't stupid. I was being celebrated for the jokes. Same jokes, same swag, same vibe. But in this venue, it's being celebrated as opposed to, you know, being made fun of. Like I'm making this whole group of dudes laugh, and then your first response is to call me stupid. Obviously, the intent is like, oh my God, you're silly or whatever. It probably comes from an endearing nugget, but here I was being celebrated. And like you said, the drama club was such a great venue for that. So I think through that, I really did have the environment that nurtured me and helped me grow in that into my identity that I wasn't even thinking about. I was just kind of going with the flow at that point. And you know, I found seriousness in the drama club, like what that means to be dedicated and serious about an art
a craft.
To a craft. I thought dudes just go on stage and start doing shit. I didn't know how the theater worked, but fortunately we had an amazing drama teacher who was very serious about that. So I had this
shout out to
one time Miss
Daphne Secret.
Daphne Secret, one time Dr. Daphne Secret.
Doctor. Oh, put some respect on her name.
Put some respect on the name, and you know that that street kind of unruliness that I was bringing in was kind of shaped and formed into something a bit more pointed and something more intentional. So I think that was a really great opportunity for me to form into myself. And you know, I was reflecting on this not too long ago, where it's like, we got a lot of like organizational skills and like management skills and collaboration, project improv, management. Like so many skills were developed like in that drama.
Even competition, like going to competitions.
Buckling down, and technical skills. I learned how to audio edit like, in drama club. Like,
a lot of things.
You know, and I had the benefit during that time of having 2 years of Miss Secret and 2 years of Miss Smith. One time to Miss Smith.
Shout out to Keisha.
That's my dog. You know, Secret was like, you know, this is very serious. It was very rigid. It was very like, we're going to study the classics. We're going to do this and that. When Smith got there, it was like, this is your club. And I think having that balance of both, when Smith's tenure came in, we flew. I mean, she let us do whatever we want. I started a mime troupe. I started an improv company.
So much.
We did shows at the city hall. Like we were so busy and we ran it.
Yeah.
I had the honor of being president for 2 years, 2 terms. Thanks. Circling back to identity, I didn't know I could be a leader until I was given the opportunity to be a leader. And I found what it was to lead a troupe of a bunch of drama kids. And and I had the pleasure of they really fucked with me in that regard, and they really trusted me, and they really like supported my vision. And you know, so I really found my identity through that, and then carried that out to college.
Yeah, there's just so much there, like with Secret and with Miss Smith, of like giving us accountability and just giving us the freedom to just be who we were meant to be. It's like it was such a transformative time, I believe, for all of us. And like, just I mean, I'm not trying to relive the high school days and be like, oh, those are the good old days, but like we ran that school. Like you guys had Wacky Wednesdays where you went up, did the morning announcements with me, Darnell, Ezra, James, Jared. Like we were the singing group, the Spectrum Singers, where we would go into different classrooms and we would like serenade people's girlfriends. Which is wild when you think about it back then. But we were just like the mini boys.
I mean, y'all was for hire, right? Like
we were for hire, exactly.
If I needed to woo my boo, I just let the crew.
Not the woo the boo, but like literally, like we just learned so much in there, and I feel like we're almost unicorns coming out of that.
It's a very special time. And from what I've heard, given the changes in education, and you know, I still visit NMB as much as I can just to kind of tap in, and it is different. You know, the arts isn't supported as it used to be. a lot of the equipment is dated. You know, it's really unfortunate that, you know, I mean, not to sound so get on my soapbox here, but they're quick to fund the football team and quick to fund all the other, you know, areas, but the arts kind of gets the short end of the stick. And like, we didn't have much, but we made it happen. And now it's like, to even have less, then there's also a generational differences. You know, the biggest thing that I noticed in going back to in that time is a lot of kids these days want to do what other people are doing, but we were like going against the grain. So it's like starting a mime troupe, it wasn't trending. We didn't have social media really like that. So then it was like, you know, a lot of kids want to replicate because, oh, if this format works, let's try it. You know, there needs to be more environment in which, you know, teens, especially at that time, can experiment, can be void of the likes, you know, just to be fully and uninhibitedly creative. And I think that's really important, like, because we carry that on till today. And I'm sure you have an approach in your corporate world, you kind of probably have an edge because 100%. You kind of have that, like, that roux of unfiltered, you know, raw creativity.
Yeah. One thing that I would say is that I talk to my siblings about this all the time, but like, you are probably one of the most impressive people we know, and it's because
I'll take it.
It's because you've been in your bag from day one. Like, it's like you almost figured out what your purpose was or what the direction you were going to go really early on. And like, you just have this brand in our mind of this guy who's fearless, who knows what he wants, who is going to take risks, who's going to be bold, who's going to be courageous. And I feel like that's super inspirational.
Thank you.
And that's why I enjoy spending time with you, is because it's like there's these qualities that are really easy to admire within you. Like, when we think about Josh, we're like, oh, he started this new show, or he just won this new award from Oolite, or you started Folktales and Fire. And I want to talk about that too. Like, you're just doing so much, and it's like you're not tying yourself to the success of one thing. And I remember visiting you in California, and I want to talk about AI too. Like, there's so much we could talk about. But like, I just, like, you would wrap up one thing, and then you would immediately start on the next thing, and you're like, I'm not even gonna think about like, what is the outcome of this thing? I've done my best. I know that. And now it's above me now. It's in God's hands on whatever happens. I'm going to move on to the next one.
Sure.
And I love that. I
appreciate that, man. Thank you. I'm really glad that this is a podcast, because I can look back at this, because I often don't think about myself in that regard. You know, when you're in the trenches, it's like, what am I doing?
Right.
But I really, really appreciate that. And even you communicating that to me as a black man. As a black man. It's very important.
Talk about masculinity.
We're going to get there.
So much.
But, you know, I think I appreciate that. And I've come to realize that I've always just led with my heart. And also I get distracted very easily. You know, when I am working on this project, it's a problem, but writ large, looking at it, like, I will do one thing and go on to the next thing, because my attention span is very thin. You know, I'll get super excited about an idea and have to pursue it, because I just strike while the iron's hot. So looking back at it, it has been an asset, because it's kept my creative variety, it's kept my creative energy kind of like always active. But it really just comes from a sense of like, you know, shiny object syndrome.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the projects that you've worked on. I know that there's so many that we can talk about, but like, what are like the top 2 or 3 projects that you've done that you are most proud of?
Well, you know, Grown. That's my first, the first thing that comes to mind. Grown was a digital series, TV series that was Complex Network's like first and final scripted show. You know, it was loosely based off of my dating life in my 20s. I was a really awkward, you know, dude, you know, nerd, drama nerd. I didn't really have swag in a way where I was like hollering at girls. So some of the people that
Riz,
as
the kids call them,
as the kids say, the Riz.
As the kids say, the Riz.
I had zero Riz, but you know, kind of that coming of age, 20-something energy. You know, I got a chance to encapsulate that in a digital series, and you know, we ended up collaborating with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. We ended up getting it bought. The project was like over $3 million. It was like a huge thing. I thought I made it. Like, it was
so
crazy.
Inspirational, bro.
It was crazy, and for a while I actually didn't believe in the story. I just didn't. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And you know, fortunately, I had collaborators that kind of kept the thing going. And I really started realizing that, oh, there's a real opportunity for this to be bigger than just my dating life stories, but a commentary on the perspective of Black men and men who weren't raised by their fathers, but then trying to be men, but how do they really know how to be men? But they're just kind of following. So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind situation. So that's one project.
And I would say with that, like, I can't tell you how proud we were, like, to see, like, you watch shows and you watch shows that you enjoy, but I think there's an extra level of pride and enjoyment when you know the person and you know their story, and it's just like. And I was talking to my sister earlier about you can't be what you can't see. Once you see that, it's like it almost encourages you and inspires you to try to reach the pinnacle of whatever you're in.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I see you on TV, I see you with Complex, I see you with your show, and I'm like, damn, me and Josh came from the same place.
Yeah.
Like if he can do that, then I can do this for my thing.
Sure.
And it's just super inspirational.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it was very inspirational, and we kept it Haitian as fuck. You know, we wanted to represent Miami in a way. We fought for it to be filmed in Miami. My mom was in it. My aunt was in it, you know, like, so it was a really beautiful opportunity to do that. So I would say that's like the biggest project. The second project that I think that really kind of took that's very notable in my journey probably was this is small, on the smaller scale, this short film that I made called Homegirls, my first short film I ever made. And it's neither here nor there, but I pointed out because I had a dream, literally had a dream of this short, and it was a kernel of me accepting a part of myself. And I say that to say, for a long time, I didn't see myself as a film director because I thought I had to be this type A, and by type A, I mean type asshole, to run a set, to be, you know, it was a personality trait that I thought I didn't have, but I went through this journey of self-acceptance, and in that self-acceptance, like, I was like, man, I really like video games, and I've kind of like put that down, and then I accepted that as a part of myself, and then I had this dream of this like really weird post-apocalyptic world where the laws are regulated by games.
Okay.
So then things happen only via games. And then like that kind of I was like, whatever, man, I've never shot a film before. Let me just make this movie. And I did. And it didn't go anywhere. I did like one film festival, but just personally, it was a hallmark that this weird little 8-minute film would kick off a career path and a journey of creativity that was new. I found a new arena of creativity, and I've been doing creative shit since I was 14, 13.
Yeah.
You know, I used to take my mom's encyclopedia collection, and I used to draw characters that were like fighting whatever the page was. So it'd be like a page on elephants, and then I'd have a little dude, and he had like 2 guns on his hand, and he was like, you know, fighting this elephant or whatever.
Right.
But it was kind of like, oh, I found a new arena. So Homegirl, I would say, personally, is like near and dear to my heart because it was the seed that led to my creative journey of self-acceptance, self-love, and kind of scaling a new creative venture.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And I actually want to talk about Folktales and Fire also.
Sure. So
dive into that.
Folktales and Fire is a storytelling event. I would say imagine like, you know, the Moth storytelling hour mixed with like a cultural oriented open mic of sorts. Not so open, but it's a curated experience in which I bring storytellers from different cultures to share folktales or personal stories specifically about their culture to a wider audience. And it really came from my curiosity because I moved to LA in 2020. These days, thankfully, I've had the pleasure of being able to be in both cities. But when I first got in LA, I mean, Miami's diverse, but like, we just got a diverse amount of Cuban people, or not Cuban people, Caribbean people. Pardon me.
I mean, it is the capital of Latin America,
right? But you got a diverse amount of Latin American people. You got a diverse amount of Caribbean people. You know, this, it's diverse in a different way. But LA was like mad diverse. Kinda. I mean, you know, I was being exposed to Armenians, Koreans. I have like a squad of Persian friends, you know, now. Like what? Like, you know, so I was just so curious about all these different cultures. And one thing I realized the difference between LA and Miami is that like In Miami, when you meet someone, I ask you where you're from. And that's just very common practice because, hey, you could be black, but you could be black from many different nations. So, oh, you Trini? Oh, I know somebody that, it's just an opportunity to connect. In LA, people don't like that. People do not like that. I met this obviously Asian person and I was like, yo, where you from? He's like, oh, I'm from the Valley. I'm like, yeah, but like, where you from? And he's like, I'm from the Valley. And I was like, okay.
I always struggled like how to ask that question. Is it like, what is your heritage or what is your ethnicity?
Yeah, from what I've learned, people that are more sensitive to that, that being the first thing that you ask them can come off like, what the fuck? Like,
right.
why are you
It's like you're judging a book,
or you're pigeonholing me into this one thing, and I get it. Where you from has been weaponized. It is a very serious thing, and I had to learn that. But just being in Miami, it's just a different culture mindset. So, so I kind of had to reorient myself in that regard. But I still had this curiosity of all these cultures. So I had the pleasure of a dear friend of mine, Serena Vaziri. Shout out to Serena. She runs a nonprofit called Teapot LA. And, we were hanging out one day and she said, yeah, she does a lot of kids oriented programming. And she's like, I'm trying to get into adult programming. And I was like, well, I had this idea of like, yo, what if we like brought storytellers from different cultures to kind of share their stories? And she was like, it's a cool idea. I didn't think anything of it. 2 weeks later, she's like, yo, I got funding to do this. You ready? I said, huh? So, we did it the first time in her backyard, which is a beautiful garden. And it was packed the first night. I had a woman who was of Indian, Ugandan, and Mexican descent. She told some Indian folk tales and also did original poetry around her finding her identity between those different cultures. I had a Dominican storyteller tell stories about this amazing ancient Dominican warrior named Anacaona, and he had the audience chanting this thing. And this woman was alive 600 years ago, and here we are in 2021 chanting this woman's name. I told some Haitian folk tales, and even after the event, I told this Haitian folk tale about these two donkeys, and this Korean couple comes up to me afterward. They're like, yo, we got a story just like that in Korea.
Yeah.
And it was this beautiful moment of cultural connection. And I'm like, yo, we need this shit. So we started doing it. I did it again. It was packed, sold out in an hour. The third time we did it, sold out in 30 minutes. I'm getting ready to do it, to take it on the road sometime next year. And it's been a really amazing. My goal is to turn it into more or less a deaf poetry jam of sort kind of vibe, a televised event in which celebrities or stars or notable people can share stories about where they're from. Because often in the industry, you're playing characters or being involved in things that are not you, but you're trying to get yourself in, so you're going to do whatever. But I would love to give Garcelle an opportunity to tell personal stories or... tell personal stories about her time in Haiti or being Haitian in America.
I love that, and I think that's how people connect with, those artists is like you see it with Trevor Noah, you see it with Yvonne Orji, you see it with Carlos Mencia, with all these people where people want to know more about your culture, they want to know about your upbringing because we see who we see now. But what led up to that? Like what unique circumstances of your upbringing or your culture or your heritage or your traditions created the person that we see and admire today? So I really love that. And I think to build on what you were saying about like bringing different folk tales and stories together, when I came to visit you in LA, I was talking to you about this idea of, and this is me like building in public and talking about the idea, but the idea of being able to capture our heritage stories. So for instance, the Haitian folktales, I'm sure that a lot of people who are first generation in America, whose family was all in Haiti, like once you start to get inculcated in American culture, you almost forget your heritage.
Yeah, it's actually a sociological concept called distance decay.
Distance decay.
The further you are away from your homeland, the harder it is to maintain the culture.
Yeah.
Which is why there's no good Haitian food in LA.
Oh, what a bridge. But yeah, I love that distance decay. Like this idea that like, because the further away you get from it, the less that you know about it. And the concept and the idea that I've been thinking about for a really long time is I look at Disney where they tell these stories that last the test of time, like Lion King. It's lions in a jungle, but within it, like the subtext is stepping into your own identity, being able to deal with the death of your father, taking responsibility, going out and finding yourself, finding love, having friends. Like there's these stories within Disney and Pixar and all these animated stories where they gear it towards kids, but the lessons and the subtext helps them to become prepared for life in general.
Yeah, I mean that '90s Disney run was
Beauty and the Beast,
back to back bangers,
and even now like Inside Out or Soul, where it's like there's like you can go with a kid and you and the kid are gonna both gain from watching that. Like there's something for both of you.
There's a space for it.
Yeah, and so the concept and idea that we talked about was like, what if we were able to repackage the folktales from all these different heritages and ethnicities, and the subtext is like skills that the future generation needs and can hold on to,
because that's what the stories were.
Right.
You told stories back then for a reason.
Right,
I mean, I in my journey and working with different storytellers from different cultures, there's a amazing indigenous storyteller who that I met, who is the storyteller of his tribe. Like the elders were like, yo, this is for you to pass on. And I think that's so beautiful and something that we can learn from. Like, that's a thing. Stories literally move the world. Right? We look at the history books, those are stories. Obviously the ones that won the wars are the ones that tell them, but be that as it may, like
history is told from the side of the victor.
That was the only way to like spread the word or keep the traditions going. I mean, Haitian specifically, we got so many damn proverbs. So many proverbs that like, you're like, damn, these people were thinking about this like centuries ago, and this got them through. What proverbs, what stories were told that sparked the revolution? What were the stories that were told that are behind a lot of these notable events? Story is so powerful, and storytellers, especially these days, it's becoming so there's less barrier of entry to tell stories now, which I think is a good and a bad thing. Because I mean, sure, tell your story.
Because how do you even filter the quality of the story?
Right, like everyone... not every single story is
right.
How does, I guess the question is, if the story you're about to tell, what are you offering? What is your offering to the world? Is it a replication of something before? Is it a replication of rhetoric that's going to put someone down? Like, how are we moving it forward? So I do think that storytelling and storytellers are a very precious resource. And like you said, the raw material that we were able to generate.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I remember coming to visit you and you showed me DALL-E and like all of these AI tools. I think Sora right now with
that's the big
ChatGPT.
thing. Yeah.
So like, let's talk about like what kind of opportunity that opens up for any person off the street to be able to type in a prompt and then get anything that they can imagine, whether it's picture or video. Like what do you anticipate is the future of that?
That's a big question. I'm not a tech guy. I can tell you,
but just connecting it to story and connecting it
to story, it's a tricky thing because AI is trained off of stories that we've told, right? So, you're kind of like, these things have been submitted to the matrix, for lack of a better word. And I think it's a double-edged sword. It's a very tricky situation, but there is no excuse to tell stories now. I mean, like, I think that one, as a storyteller or an artist, it is your responsibility to have some sort of due diligence to the craft. I think that if you are an artist that is, has some sort of understanding of what you do, then it can be used. It can be like NOS in a car. You know what I mean? If you spend time fixing your car, making it the fastest it can be, and you're winning a couple races, but hey, maybe you just need that final push, then it can be used as a little boost to kind of get you there. Right. I now personally have zero reason to develop a story. I mean, I think AI's framework can be used to get ideas just out. If I literally have nothing, I can maybe use it to kind of get some stuff out and shape it a little bit. But personally, I think it's a double-edged sword. Yeah. I think we should not lose hold of the organic thing that we have created, because AI doesn't have trauma. Yeah. AI doesn't get inspired. Even in the days where I have nothing, I can go outside and look at a leaf and be like, oh, that's it. It doesn't have that. So I think there needs to be, organic needs to be the priority. We need to operate from a place of humanness, before we make technology the thing. Because I feel like organicness is becoming more and more of a finite resource, and I mean this regard to climate. I mean this regard to food security. You know, privatization of literally organic matter is going to become a thing, and now privatization of intelligence is becoming a thing. So then generations from now, maybe a person doesn't have to know how to tell stories, right? And that where I feel like is really scary. I don't want to say scary, but it's unfortunate because, you know, what are we telling the next generation? Do we prioritize the tech? What if the lights go off? What the hell are we going to be telling around a campfire? What are we going to be telling? Like, that rawness, that realness that makes us human cannot be forgotten. Technology helps. Don't get me wrong. Like, look at these microphones. This is going to be on the internet. You know, like, there's
It's
cool
gonna be on the
things.
internet.
You know, there's cool things.
Right.
There was a time where we probably had to pay an exorbitant amount of money to be in a studio like this. But now, hey, whatever, pay some money, you get in.
Right.
So we have worked hand in hand with technology, but we cannot lose sight of that organicness.
Yeah. I love that. And now I'm very curious because you're out in Hollywood, and you know that's been a big thing of actors and writers and everyone within that ecosystem striking AI for taking their jobs and like taking their value. How do you see that impacting just Hollywood in general of people being able to tell stories or graphic?
I mean, you look at Tyler Perry stopping the development of a huge studio because he saw Sora.
Yeah,
he saw it text to AI video and was like, "What? No, we don't."
So I don't need all y'all. Like,
you know what I mean? And hey, numbers. As a business owner, sure, if you're at the end of the day, it's all about class and funds, right? Yeah. So it's like, you know, are you taking jobs away to prioritize, you know, the software? I'm not the well versed in the technological politics of it all, but I will say, as an artist, I do think right now is the time to start regulating and asking these questions, which is why I'm really glad they went on strike and dealt with that. Because, hey, there's some actors and people that are like, screw it. Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. I'll sell my image to AI and then get like $100 check every time they use it or something like that. I mean, some people are for it.
Right.
You know, not to sound cheesy, but I really do think it's a balance. But again, we have to prioritize the human.
Yeah.
We have to. It's not profitable. And try convincing your board to prioritize the human. Good luck with that. But as an artist, in my own regard, I'm always going to be waving the flag of humans.
Yeah. Okay, so we are coming up on time, but I definitely want to kind of connect the thread.
You had questions you wanted to ask me. I didn't.
It's all good. We organic out here. Talking about humanness and talking about identity, I think one of the really big things that I really enjoy hearing your perspective on is the idea of modern masculinity.
Sure, yeah.
And so, you know, we have this crisis of people being fatherless or not having like really good examples of great black male role models. And you have a new generation of men growing up today who are almost looking up to influencers that they see on social media, like people like Andrew Tate or Jordan Peterson, where they're like, it's almost like people say toxic masculinity.
Sure.
But then you can't call all masculinity toxic. Like there has to be some level of masculinity.
Sure.
So I know that you did the Frolic.
It's in production. It's in pre-production.
Okay, we don't have to talk about it.
No, we can.
Well, if you want to.
Sure.
But like, I'm curious on your perspective of where we've been in the past with masculinity and where you think that we're going with it.
Sure. I think the boys are broken or have been broken. And I think the old ways of that 1950s energy of like, you know, women, get out of here. Hey, you know, like, you know, smoking a cigar in the boardroom of like, you know, hey, toots, you know, all that. Like that energy, you know, was the thing.
That was crazy.
Being a straight white dude in the 50s was probably lit.
It was probably peak.
That's why a lot of these motherfuckers is trying to go back. Like, that's when America was great for these motherfuckers, bro. Great. Right? And even in the black community, you know what I mean? Like, to some degree, but where it's been is very archaic. I think that a lot of things are perpetuated, and hey, women are implicated in that too. Men are implicated in that too. There's just a lot of things we've accepted, but I think in the past decade we've started to see the walls of Rome are crumbling with the, you know, Me Too movement and all this stuff. I mean, people have been saying this for a long time, but like they haven't been the platform or given the opportunity to express their displeasure, their hurt in all of this. And we are now really seeing in the front and center of how letting certain men get away with certain behaviors was accepted back then.
Yeah. Harvey Weinstein, prime example.
Right. You know, so even before that, think about all the industries that aren't Hollywood. We just think about the media, but what about women in warehouses or like all these other industries that don't get the press that they need? So where I think it's been was broken. And I think where it is now, or where it should go, or what the future is, I think there is a movement, you know, of identifying that. I'm glad there's words being put to it. You know, and it's like there was a time in my life where I've been burned or I've been hurt by that toxicness. And I've every major moment success in my life I can attest to a woman, and that's just my story. So I've grown up with a profound sense of respect and appreciation for feminine energy. I went on the deep end though, where I was like, "Yo, fuck these niggas, man." Because I was hurt by it, and I seen beautiful, amazing women in my life be hurt by that archaic masculine energy. I think there's both. I think you need both. I think yin and yang is a thing, right? You need these two pulling forces, you know. Obviously, there's an argument to be made of like, you know, why do we have to genderify everything? Sure. But I do think that protective energy, that, you know, that firm grasp of you know, the external forces that are at play in the world. And, you know, you have to, I think masculine energy runs that kind of department. Yeah. But I look at it this way. I think between the men and the women in the traditional sense, like men worry about external and women worry about internal. And I think there needs to be an understanding that both are very important. Right. Because I'm sorry, if women ran the world, there probably wouldn't be that many wars. Probably not that many. Right? There probably wouldn't be all these initiatives.
There's probably more cooperation than competition.
Probably, because I couldn't imagine a woman ordering a drone strike on a community of children because they probably have a kid, right? So
let me actually add a point to that. Like I was at this game night with my sister and some other people, and they played this game. I don't remember what game it was, but they literally played it, and I was like, "How do you win?" Because I was thinking competition, and the girls were like, "You don't."
Right.
The whole point of the game is just to talk and to communicate.
That's
and
cool.
To share and exchange. There's no one's keeping points. Like and that blew my mind, because then I approached it with a different perspective. I was like, instead of competition of trying to win, it's more of building empathy and building connection. Like that's the point of the game.
Sure.
And so as soon as someone explained that to me, then I had a shift in perspective.
Great.
And I was like, oh, it's not me against you, it's me and you against this.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, and to kind of cap off what I'm saying is, like, there's no right or wrong answer, right? It's a very complicated thing. Everybody has a different journey. Everybody has a different path. I look at what am I contributing as an artist to the zeitgeist of men in masculinity. You know, with a project like Grown showing just kind of the implications of when it is not so good, and with my future project, The Grand Frolic, which is essentially getting a bunch of black men together and we're going to frolic in the meadow, because I highly doubt you've ever seen it. I think it was a viral trend a couple years ago, which I thought was amazing. When I saw that, I was like, this is something I like. Because I think there's a softness and there's
that black boy joy.
But primarily a softness that I feel like men, and particularly black men, I can only really speak from that lens, is like that they don't think they have access to, because the standard or the perspectives that are out there are going to look at you as less than. And if I'm connecting with you one-to-one as a human, and I'm hearing you, and I'm you know, offering my care and my attention and my empathy, and that's looked at as a weakness? Really? That's a weakness? I look at it as a strength. Can you imagine if everybody had that perspective? What different world we would live in? And I'm being very idealistic. There's obviously a lot of implications to that, but like, dude, I look at it as a strength. So my art offering as an artist and a storyteller is in almost any work showing that opportunity to access that softness. When you got to be firm, you got to be firm. But I tell you this right now, the realest nigga I ever knew was my mom.
Same.
You know what I'm saying? Like I seen her exert strength and protectiveness just like a man. That's what I'm saying. It's not really gender. I don't think it's gender oriented. I think it's human oriented. We pigeonhole ourselves into this binary choice. You know, the confines are so firm.
Yeah.
Like I think to put a name to it, masculine and feminine energy helps kind of identify it, but it's human energy, son. And I think you need both, bruh.
So, and just to tie all this together back to story, I think that we talked about how story lasts the test of time, and that's how information gets passed on to the next generation. Within story is also symbols as well.
Sure.
So the symbol that I can think of, because we're not just talking about man versus woman, we're talking about masculine versus feminine. And I think of the yin yang symbol.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like black and white, but then within each one of them, there's a small speck.
What a
of
succinct
the other.
way to put that.
Exactly.
And I think that's what it is. Like, and you see how even in the shape of the yin yang symbol, it flows
Right.
with each other. And I think that's a perfect example. Like, there are times where you have to show up in one way, but that does not mean that's the only way you should show up. Be three-dimensional. Be a fully formed man, right? Like have access to that. Like if you see your little boy, Jason Wilson, I believe that's his name. Big black man that does martial arts, big beard, like has like young boys like crying, and he stops his martial arts training and sits with them and lets them cry. And that's what I'm talking about. Homeboy is in a gym doing martial arts, but says, hold the phone. This little boy needs to cry, and that's okay.
Wow.
That is the perfect example of that. I love that. Me personally, I think it's so dope that, like, you know, you have this tough guy persona. There's a lot of beautiful men in my life that are tough guys on the surface, right? Tatted up, locks, all that, right? But then it'll be like, yo, you trying to talk, bro? I love that. And isn't that so cool? It's so multidimensional, you know? And just don't, why limit yourself to some stupid idea? Because at the end of the fucking day, it's a bunch of, I'm just gonna speak plainly here. It's a bunch of niggas performing for other niggas, bro. Literally, that's it. Performing and upholding this idea of masculinity and manhood. I don't know who the hell wrote it. We've been putting ourselves in compromising situations because of it. It's a lot of niggas out here with allegations and all this shit coming out. Because guess what? That nigga was gay, but held it off for a bunch of years. Because the world said he couldn't. All of a sudden, now niggas is getting it. It just leads to so much inauthenticity because of this idea that we're holding up so hard. Men are holding it up so hard, living and dying because I felt emasculated. And now you gotta kill a nigga because of that? If you kill a niggas to hold up this ethereal idea of what it is to be a man, you're harming yourself, you're killing yourself, you're drinking, you're doing all these self-defeating things to hold up an idea. Where is the book? Where is the tablet that inscribes what the fuck a man is? Where is that? I don't know. We're performing for each other. And everybody got a different idea of what it is to be a man. So who's winning here? Who is winning is my question. I think there needs to be a global renegotiation of what it is to be a man. Personally, I think there needs to be a global renegotiation of what it means to be a human. Because again, I think when you put it in black and white, man and woman, it's so limiting. It's very limiting. So that's my 2 cents. I'll step off my soapbox.
Very well said. Very well said. Very well said. I want to close it off. One of the things that you said was, you know, looking back on this interview and just reminiscing on, you know, this time capsule, this time that we're in. If you were to project yourself 20 years into the future, 50 years into the future, what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy. Wow. My number one goal in my life is to own a ranch. It's my number one goal. Okay. I want it more than anything else. And I say that to say it's a representation of space, of a place and a space for people to thrive creatively. So what I hope my legacy consists of is community building. I want to plant as many seeds and operate from a place of that's heart-centered. I would hope it meant a lot that you said you get inspired by how I move, because again, the world be making you think that you moving wrong, son. And then I've spent a lot of my time doubting that shit. So I would hope my legacy includes community, building community, create that contributes to, you know, whether it be the Black speculative arts, seeing ourselves, especially people of color, Black people in places and spaces that we would have never imagined, that consists of Afrofuturism, that consists of like all these universes that we have yet to create. I would hope that my legacy is consisted of, you know, helping people get bags. I became a director because I love paying people.
Get to the bag.
I love paying people, bro. I love creating an opportunity for people to get money and then be inspired to help other people get money. Like, you know, scripts are job creators. Every time I'm writing a script, I'm helping create a job, you know, different departments. So I would hope my legacy consists of people being able to create wealth off of projects and ideas that I had. I hope my legacy is consisted of inspiring people to get land, buy some land. And all in all, I hope my legacy primarily consists of people not wanting to put positive energy down. It's very brave to be a positive Patty in this world. There's obviously sometimes you got to bring in some reality to it. I get that. But I'm such a positive person, and I believe in toxic positivity, don't get me wrong. But there is a place of operating from a place of not being so cynical in that energy. Like, I try to be a light in every room that I walk into. And I firmly believe that power is something that's passed on, right? Like, I'm a candle, I'm gonna light your candle so you can light another candle. And guess what? We got a room full of candles. The room is lit.
Beautiful. Well, with that, Joshua Jean-Baptiste,
thank you.
My Haitian brother.
My brethren.
My drama clown.
Hey, man.
Bro.
I am proud to be in the army of silly gooses.
Bro. Like, the fact that we made this happen, like, is such a blessing. And
I've been waiting to be on your show for a minute,
glad
dog.
that we've been able to have this conversation. We could close it out with the dun 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 dun. Go Power Ranger.
We made a very silly song in high school called Go Power Rangers, the reggae version, and it was popping. We did it at open mic. I was wearing a sombrero for some reason, but it was popping.
And I was on the piano, but
on the keys.
The rest is history. But
Go Power Rangers.
Bro, we talked about so many great things, and I hope that whoever's watching this, whether it's like a young kid who lacks direction, or it could be an older person who's trying to, you know, redefine themselves or find their way, I hope that they found inspiration in this conversation. And
I appreciate that, brother.
If I haven't said it enough, I appreciate you, bro. I'm inspired by you, and I admire you.
Thank you, and as do I. I'm, you know me. I'm a big advocate, and as a vice president of the Noel fan club, you know, I buy your merch. I'm a big advocate for Noel's. Jeff Noel 2028.
No, that'd be too soon. He has to be senator first.
Jeff Noel for president.
I hope you heard that, Jeff. Bro, appreciate you.
Big love, man.
For sure.